Hello everyone. Today we are going to discuss about a very important topic in cast partial denture fabrication, and that is surveying and designing. As all of us know that designing and fabricating a very good partial denture is a work of art and lot of scientific principles are involved. It is a big challenge. And the best way to cure most of the ills of partial denture prosthesis is to anticipate the troubles which may be encountered and to change the conditions so that they never happen. And there is no way to make sure of accomplishing this than by intelligent use of surveying and principles of design. So, a removable partial denture, you must have seen these various types in which there are interim partial dentures with acrylic resin and denture teeth and clasps, and cast partial dentures which are made up of metallic framework and denture based resin and teeth. So these are different types of removable partial denture, and the type of denture we are talking today is the cast partial denture with metallic framework and not the interim partial denture. So so we will cover this topic under the following headings: Introduction, Surveying, Design Philosophies, and Design Procedures for various classes of partially edentulous arches. Before we go into the details of the topic, let us understand why planning is important. The planning increases efficiency, reduces the related risks, facilitates proper coordination, aids in organizing, gives the right direction, keeps a good control or monitoring, helps to achieve the objectives in a proper fashion, motivates the personnel involved in the treatment, it encourages creativity and innovation, and helps in proper decision making outcome. Until 1980s, most RPD were designed and constructed by time-honored method of eyeballing. A prosthesis is made on the basis of educated guesses. A turning point in partial denture construction from guesswork based on clinical experience to scientifically based procedure was the appearance of dental surveyors in 1980. Dr. A.J. Fortunati is thought to be the first person to employ a mechanical device to determine the relative parallelism of tooth surfaces. Boston in 1918 has demonstrated a method for charting correct class placement by using a parallelometer. First such instrument to be produced commercially was Ney's instrument. There are basically two types of surveying methods. First is surveying by using a parallelometer, which is used very commonly, and second is optical surveying by using light beams, which is not that common in practice. So what do we gather by the word surveying? Surveying is, taking a snapshot of the existing situation. Like you must have seen the surveying in on the roadside while the constructions of the road is going on, or a pillar, or some civil work, or some bridges is going on, right? So land surveying is very commonly done, and all of us are aware. So this type of surveyor in removable partial denture is needed, and why it is so, let us understand that we are dealing with teeth and bone, which are inflexible, and we are dealing with the soft tissues also. So all of them are not aligned in an exactly parallel manner in all the situations in all the patients, and that is why when we are replacing the teeth, we need to make them parallel as much as possible to facilitate the proper insertion and placement of the removable partial denture. So as you can see here, because the rigid framework cannot flex beyond a certain limit, if the teeth are not parallel to each other, the denture will not be placed properly. And that is why the importance of relative parallelism, and that is why the importance of surveying and designing. So the cast surveyor is basically an instrument by means of which these principles of parallelism may be applied. And as we said earlier, Dr. A.J. Fortunati is thought to be the person who has employed this mechanical device to determine the relative parallelism of the tooth surfaces. A dental model surveyor is essentially a parallelometer. It determines the relative parallelism of the two surfaces, an instrument used to determine the relative parallelism of the teeth or other areas on the cast of the jaw. The Ney's instrument was made available in 1923. It remains the most widely used surveyor in the dental field. There are other surveyors in the market today also, but in the long run they accomplish the same purpose. Jelenkos is the second most widely used surveyor. What are different parts of surveyor? So a surveyor essentially has following components: a platform, a vertical arm, a horizontal arm, movable vertical part, and a cast holder. All of you can see in this picture. A is the platform on which the cast is held. Vertical arm is B, C is the horizontal arm, and D is the movable vertical part, and E is your cast holder. Right? So these are the basic parts of any surveyor. And as you can see here, this particular platform has a ball and socket joint. The cast is held on this platform, and below that is the ball and socket joint, which enables the movement in any direction. So we can give the tilt as and when required. Now coming to the surveying tools, there is the first tool, analyzing rod. It is a simple parallel rod which determines the relative parallelism of two surfaces. Then comes a carbon marker to mark the survey line. So you can see in the picture that the survey line is getting marked because the body of the surveyor, not the tip, is touching the teeth surface. Then there are various undercut gauges to measure the depth of the undercut, and these are 0.01, 0.02 and 0.03 inch undercut gauges. So as you can see in the image, the undercut gauge touches the height of contour, and the depth is indicated by the gauge as it goes into the undercut area. The wax knife is also provided to contour the wax patterns of the restorations placed on the abutment teeth. Now, what are different types of surveyor? Like we said, Nays and Jelenkos are two most commonly used, but other than that, there is Williams surveyor, retentoscope surveyor, A2000 Boschmann surveyor, microanalyzer, stressograph, optical surveyor, computerized surveyor, intraoral surveyor, and so on. So here is Nays and Jelenko surveyor. The differences here are: in Nays surveyor, horizontal arm is fixed, whereas Zelenko has horizontal arm which is movable. The vertical arm is retained by friction in Nays surveyor, and vertical arm is spring mounted in Jelenko surveyor. The shaft remains in any vertical position until again it is moved in Nays surveyor. However, in Jelenko surveyor, vertical arm when released returns to its original position because it is loaded by spring. The cast table is moved around surveyor platform in Nays surveyor, but in Jelenko surveyor, the cast table is fixed. Now let us come to objectives in surveying. The objectives in surveying procedure is to reveal to the designer those physical characteristics of the mouth which favor the design of a successful prosthesis. Surveying of the study cast will identify the structures that will need modification in order to make the possible design of the prosthesis. The prosthesis that can be easily inserted and removed by the patient, contribute optimally to appearance, resist unseating forces to a reasonable extent, and create no undesirable foot traps. The degree of success achieved will depend upon the designer's judicious management and correlation of four factors: retentive undercuts, interferences, aesthetic considerations, and guideline surfaces. Now, these are the four characteristics we have to keep in mind throughout the session. That is, I'll again reiterate: retentive undercuts, interferences, aesthetic considerations, and guideline surfaces. When these four factors have been assessed, the path of insertion can be decided and the design of the prosthesis can be established. It should be remembered that when a laboratory technician receives a cast from the dentist on which he is to construct a removable partial denture, there is nothing the technician can do but to accept the cast as it is. He cannot alter the slope of the stone teeth to improve the position of the height of contour. He cannot cut away bony exostosis, and therefore it is essential that the dentist use the surveyor before planning and treatment for the patient. The surveyor line or height of contour. The first important concept in the steps in surveying is the height of contour. It is the greatest circumference of a tooth in a given horizontal plane. The significance of survey line is that any rigid, non-flexible part of the prosthesis must be designed to lie above the survey line and only flexible part may be designed to go below it. Divan in 1935 used some clarifying terms to describe retention. He referred the surface of the tooth that is occlusal to the height of contour as suprabulge and surface inclining cervically as infrabulge. Now, as you can see in the picture, when there is a tooth which is a terminal abutment, which the area which lies near the edentulous area is the near zone, and away from the edentulous area or near the contiguous tooth is a far zone. So, near zone and far zone of the tooth. Now, this concept, Blatterfin has classified the survey lines depending on this near and far zone. Let us see how it is. First is high survey line. You can see that the survey line is above in the occlusal one-third of the tooth surface. Then comes the medium survey line, which is near the middle one-third of the tooth. Low survey line is in the cervical one-third of the tooth, and the diagonal survey line is on near zone side. It is on the occlusal one-third and it goes and tapers to the cervical one-third area. So these are the classification given by Blatterfin. Now let us come to the uses of dental surveyor. The surveyor can be used for surveying the diagnostic cast, surveying the master cast, and some other auxiliary uses that we will discuss. Now coming to surveying the diagnostic and master cast, to determine the most desirable path of placement that will eliminate or minimize interference to placement on removal, to identify proximal tooth surfaces that are needed to be made parallel so that they act as guiding planes during placement and removal, to determine whether tooth and bony areas of the interference will need to be eliminated surgically or by selecting a different path of placement, to locate and measure areas of teeth that may be used for retention, to determine most suitable path of placement that will permit locating retainers and artificial tooth to the best aesthetic advantage, to permit an accurate charting of mouth preparations to be made, to delineate the height of contour on abutment teeth, to record the cast position in relation to the selected path of placement for future reference. These are all uses of dental surveyor. Now coming to the surveying procedure. Procedure has two stages: preliminary analysis of the diagnostic cast to determine most advantageous path of insertion. Second, to decide upon various types of mouth preparation that will be required. And then definitive designs. For definitive design, guidelines are drawn, undercuts are measured and marked, soft tissue undercuts are delineated, design of the framework is outlined on the cast. Now coming to the preliminary analysis. First, to evaluate the claspability potential of the abutment, that is the retentive undercut. Here you can see that there is a survey line, and in the infrabulge area we are measuring the depth of the undercut using undercut gauge. Second, interferences. Now interferences can be bony exostosis, can be soft tissue undercuts, can be buccally tilted teeth, can be lingually tilted teeth. All these are interferences. Now they can be dealt with four strategies. First is elimination, alteration, avoidance, and exploitation. So for example, as you can see here, soft tissue interference in the form of mylohyoid ridge here. Then mental ridge of the mandible, you can see in the figure. Alveolar ridge with severe labial undercut, very common. Maxillary tuberosity, another commonly seen undercut. Mandibular torus, quite rare but it is there. Torus palatinus, again rare but can be encountered. So all these are interferences, and the surveyor can be used to determine the best means of correlating the path of insertion of the prosthesis with the slope of the undercut. Now coming to hard tissue obstacles, migrated, tipped and rotated teeth may be found everywhere in the jaw and may interfere in the ideal design of the prosthesis. So lingually inclined mandibular teeth, you can see here. Maxillary molars, bicuspids which tip buccally. Now coming to another point in preliminary analysis is aesthetics. So the metal must be used metal that is used for the framework must be concealed without compromising support and stability of the prosthesis. Artificial anterior teeth must be placed in most natural position. Now, fourth point is guiding planes. The surveyor is used to locate existing or potential surfaces of the teeth that can be converted to guiding planes by selective grinding. A guide plane does not need to be more than 2 to 3 millimeters in occlusogingival cast. Now, coming to the auxiliary uses of surveyor, apart from surveying the diagnostic cast, master cast, the surveyor can hold a handpiece and can help in placement of uh, various internal attachments. It can help to contour the wax pattern, and it can also help to see the ceramic buildup, and it can help to recontour the metal ceramic crown to the desired uh, shape. So now let us see the step-by-step procedure in surveying. The first is to examine the occluded diagnostic cast. So we examine the occluded diagnostic cast and determine a first hand report of how the things are, and take a experienced educated guess. Then we indicate the proposed rest seat areas by short vertical lines on the cast below the tooth with a black pencil. Indicate by outlining in red any cuspal relief that will be needed to provide adequate occlusal clearance for the rest spaces. Examine the lingual aspect of occlusal cast for adequate space for cingulum rest indirect retainers. Use black pencil for marking. Place the cast on the cast holder at horizontal tilt. Examine the teeth to be clasped for favorable retentive undercuts as well as the shape and contour of the proposed abutment teeth. Now, if the shape and contour of these teeth necessitate recontouring, indicate the location and extent of the proposed alteration with red pencil. Determine the most favorable tilt of the cast that will permit proper placement of clasps, minor connectors, anterior teeth and denture base areas. Now, clasp tilting. Tilting is changing the position of the cast, which thus changes the long axis of each tooth on the cast relative to the horizontal plane. Change in the tilt then changes the position of the survey line and location and extent of the undercut. Tilting is used to obtain the most favorable path of insertion. Tilting is used to increase the desirable undercuts and to decrease undesirable undercuts. Through tilting, it is possible to increase the undercuts on side of the tooth while decrease them on the other side of the tooth. Standard reference position is the 0-degree tilt, and their tilt can be an anteroposterior tilt and also a mediolateral tilt. Path of insertion in a 0-degree tilt is straight downwards. Now here the cast is tilted, so the path of insertion is upwards and backwards. Here the path of insertion is upward and forward. Now once we have decided the tilt of the cast, then we have to preserve that particular tilt, because if you want to survey the cast again, we need to reproduce that tilt. Now the tilt is preserved by the means of tripoding. Tripoding is done by placing 3 marks at one particular plane, and these 3 marks can be done on the tissue surface, that is called as a tissue surface indexing. So the 3 dots should be placed at one particular plane, uh, and those marks should be placed in an area which is not crossed by any of the framework components. So that is how the marks are placed on the tissue surface. Now if we don't want to disturb the tissue surface, we can also do the tripoding in the art portion indexing method, wherein the land area of the cast or the sides of the casts are used for tripoding. There is another technique called a cemented pin technique, in which we can have retentive pins placed in the center of the cast, and they can be used for guiding the tilt of the cord. So the ultimate goal in the partial denture service is that it has to go to the place smoothly over the teeth and soft tissue. It has to function as it is planned, and it has to remain in the place by resisting the dislodging forces. To summarize, Proper placement and contour of the components of the design can be achieved only through the adequate survey and well-planned mouth preparation. The components of RPD must be selected to control the stress of abutment teeth and tissues caused by the forces of occlusion and movement of the distal extension bases. Alterations in design may be dictated by dentist's prudent judgment. Compromising with ideal principles in the location and design of the components may jeopardize the potential success of the prosthesis.